Basically what debate is, it's essentially an intellectual game between two teams. There's an affirmative team and a negative team. Every year we get a resolution, and what we're supposed to do, the affirmative team is trying to defend the resolution. So for example, this previous year's resolution was giving health aid to sub-Saharan Africa. Now what affirmative teams were trying to do is present a case they believe is suitable to help Africa, and the other team, which is the negative team, their responsibility is to refute the case and say giving help to Africa is bad. Now, in a varsity round, what usually happens is the affirmative team goes up and they present their affirmative case, and the negative team is usually flowing or taking notes as to what the affirmative is talking about. Now, once the affirmative is done talking, the negative will usually go up, and we usually have pre-prepared evidence that we've been researching all year and all summer to specific cases. We try to brainstorm all the possible cases and have blocks written to them. And what usually a negative team would do is go up and refute their points and tell why giving aid to Africa is bad in this instance. But once you get to upper level debate, we have this, such as varsity debate, we have a strategy called speed talking. In speed talking, essentially what you're doing is reading your evidence extremely fast, not to confuse the other team, but to spread them out, to have so many subpoints that the other team does not get to answer all those subpoints. So for instance, if the affirmative team goes up and presents their affirmative, the negative will go up and read 15 pieces of evidence that talk about giving aid to Africa is really bad, and they'll try to go through the cards really fast, so the affirmative might miss a point, and then the negative can win an argument on that. And here is an example of what speed reading is. Observation 1, inherency versus supplement A. We see that malaria is a preventable and curable disease, yet it still kills millions. Judd in '07, before the day is over, it will claim lives of 3,000 children to tell the reality of malaria continues to plague the poorest places around the world, particularly sub-Saharan Africa. 40% of the world's population is at risk of contracting malaria. There are between 30 to 55 million diagnosed cases each year, resulting in more than 1 million deaths annually. Remains the number one killer of children under the age of 5 in Africa. For too many people, death by mosquito bite is a daily menace. The most shameful part of the story is that malaria is preventable and treatable. We could end this devastation today. Furthermore, in subpoint B, notice that agencies working to stop malaria lack of resources necessary to fight the disease. This is from Seattle Times in '06. Every day, thousands of mothers who watch helpless as their children die from a disease that we have known to have to prevent for decades. Even the world's biggest philanthropy can't provide the $3 billion a year experts say is needed to break the cycle of malaria in the developing world, but spending so far short, it's time to close the gap in funding. Next, now we would like to prevent observation 2 harm. First, in subpoint A, malaria is devastating to Africa. Not only does it kill 1 million people each year, it prevents economic progress in the world's poorest regions. This is from Urin in 2007. This is a disease that affects the large economies and smaller affects the economies and nations and households. It has an impact on everything from building roads to building a fire home. Its impact runs from top to the bottom. Places which have some infrastructure and malaria could all become more obvious choices. Isolated areas that often have the greatest needs are left behind because of the close connection between poverty and parasitic infection. And that is an example of speed reading.